Hello and welcome to Beyond 2000. Some time ago we reported on a bold plan by authorities in Venice to turn back the waters that were ravaging their city. A modern version of the King Canute legend. But where King Canute had only blind faith on his side, in Venice they were relying on some extraordinary technology. Of course, legend has it, King Canute was left with wet feet and a red face. But, as Simon Nash reports, much more than pride is at stake for the people of Venice.
It couldn't be anywhere but Venice, could it? A city with the power to hypnotise the visitor, enthrall you in its sense of the past, and release you from the ordinary or logical. Of course, it's an improbable place for a city. Who would sensibly build on a series of low-lying islands in the middle of a shallow, marshy lagoon? Little wonder then that Venetians watched the tide levels almost as closely as they watched the annual flood of tourists. One look at a map is enough to snap you out of a dream and face the reality that Venice is cruelly vulnerable to the sea and mankind's abuse. Surrounded by heavy industry, there's nowhere for the pollution to go but into the lagoon. And the Adriatic Sea returns the compliment by regularly inundating the city with devastating floods. Once the tide rises above 80 centimetres, the city is threatened. And 3 times in the past 25 years, it's been devastating. The floods left their mark in more ways than one. It was decided to save Venice, but in Italy, that's much easier said than done. Over the next 20 years, there was a fiasco of squabbling and bickering over how to get the job started. It culminated in 1987 with Venice having 5 mayors in a period of just 3 months, all fighting over their share of the loot. But finally, it looks as if Moses has come to save Venice. Moses was the first man to successfully manipulate the seas. And this Moses, an Italian acronym for Experimental Electromechanical Module, may do the same with the Adriatic. It's the first test of a massive inflatable barrage system that it's hoped will be able to save Venice from the ravages of freak tides and the gradual rise in sea levels as the Earth's climate warms up. Moses was first towed to its trial position just inside one of the 3 entrances to the lagoon late in 1988 and has now successfully completed its first tests. This may just be the idea that finally prevents the death of Venice. The steel frame is just for the test because the beauty of this system is that the real structure remains hidden until needed. The idea is that these 20-metre long, 17-metre deep boxes will be filled with air and raised from the seabed to seal the lagoon against a flood tide. Anchored on the seabed in a way that's yet to be determined, they'll lie flat most of their life filled with water, allowing normal shipping traffic to pass unaffected, and also permit the normal flushing of the lagoon. But in emergencies, they can be quickly raised by displacing the water with air through a massive underwater hinge. Eventually, there'll be about 80 of these gates across the lagoon entrances. Larger structures simply couldn't cope with the hydraulic forces of the enormous water flow at each tide, about 150 million cubic litres here at the Lido, for instance. Years of model and test work has gone into determining exactly the right design to make sure the gates do their job. Any barrier to prevent flooding must protect the ecosystem, yet mustn't restrict shipping or the vital exchange of water between lagoon and sea. It's only this daily flushing that has prevented the growing pollution in the lagoon from becoming a national disaster. The answer in part lies in money. Such sophisticated, large-scale technology, totally unique to Venice, is going to cost huge amounts. The latest estimate of the cost of a coordinated program to save Venice has been put at an almost unbelievable $7.5 billion. But at last, it seems, there's a willingness to provide it. The second important ingredient is information, because decisions taken now in ignorance could have dangerous repercussions in the future. And to meet that need, a massive data bank has been assembled in the past 18 months that offers a comprehensive list of just about everything that statistics can count. Using remote sensing and the latest computer techniques, a huge store of information has been accumulated on the physical health of this peculiar city. It reads like a dictionary: population, land use, hydrology, geology, underwater topography, vegetation, power use, transportation, and dozens of other parameters are available in a variety of displays. The database can also help solve fundamental questions about the operation of the barrage system, like at what point the gates should be filled with air to close the lagoon, which is not just a simple question of keeping the tourist spots dry. Now, to stop all the flooding, it would mean swinging the gates into action at a tide level of about 80 centimetres. That's the official aqua alta, or high water mark. But that would mean making 40 closures a year, which would seriously disrupt shipping and add to the growing pollution problem in the lagoon. So the current thinking is that the closure should be made on a tide of about 110 centimetres, or 3 or 4 times a year. But as the computer shows us, that means you'll still need your Wellington boots in St Mark's Square. On a 110 centimetre tide, more than 8% of Venice will still be flooded. But for now, it seems the most acceptable balance between the competing demands on the city from people, industry, and the fragile ecology. Which brings us to the final vital ingredient in protecting the city: ending the decades of vicious political fighting that would make even a Venetian doge blush with embarrassment. Coordinating the huge restoration project will be a consortium of some of Italy's biggest companies, representing the cream of the country's engineering skills. Its name says it all: Venezia Nuova, New Venice. And its task will be as great as any in the glorious history of this unique place.
After the break, we'll explore a new way of providing energy for the world.